We comic book fans first heard the term Age of Ultron back in May 2011, when the ending of a story in the anthology comic Avengers 12.1 teased us all that it was coming. Ooh. It didn't actually start publication until summer 2013. And as we all know, in between those two dates, the Avengers movie came out and grossed over $1 billion. That movie, and its success, changed things forever. We all know the truth. There's no going back. The comic dragged itself along for 10 boilerplate issues before the presence of time travel in that story inevitably wiped most of its events out of existence, making it even more pointless than your usual big dumb summer comic book crossover event. Meanwhile, out in the real world, as we Superman fans formed the circular firing squads we seem to love so much, we finally got confirmation that Ant-Man would be getting his own movie in fall 2014, and that Ultron would be the main villain of Avengers 2, due out the following summer. Fans put those two facts together and drew what, at the time, seemed like obvious conclusions. Surely we'd get Ant-Man's introductory film as a season closer in late July or early August, and just as surely it would tie directly into the beginning of Avengers 2, the same way Captain America's movie tied into Avengers 1. Can't have Ultron without his creator now, can we? After all, Marvel has a reputation to maintain for being faithful to their source material. I put that in quotes because their faithfulness has never been much more than superficial, pretty much stopping right at the door of the costume department. As any Mandarin fan will tell you, Obadiah Stane was not the ultimate mastermind behind Iron Man's origin. As any Thor fan will tell you, he used to have a secret identity. An entire alternate personality, in fact, as a human doctor, with Jane Foster as his nurse on the side. Emil Blonsky, as his name would suggest, was originally Russian, while Whiplash originally wasn't. Then again, there have been like 5 Whiplashes, and they've all been different people. It's like a legacy, basically. And I've already talked about the massive condensation of everyone's character arcs that made Guardians of the Galaxy what it was. So it should come as no surprise that Age of Ultron the film has absolutely nothing to do with Age of Ultron the book, and thank the gods for that. There's a time to be faithful to the source material, and there's a time to chuck it out of the highest window you can find. For the unknowing, Ultron is, was, and ever shall be one of the most boring rogues in the Avengers gallery. A standard issue killer robot out to destroy the world so he can replace the human race with machines. Sometimes I wonder why Roy Thomas and John Buscema never sued James Cameron for credit on The Terminator, given that they beat Cameron to the concept by at least 20 years. But then I remember neither one of them are Harlan Ellison, and I thank the gods for that as well. About the only thing comic book Ultron has going for him is the fact that he's a creation of Dr. Hank Pym, Ant-Man, scientist, searching for a way to be more famous than Tony Stark, if we're being honest with ourselves. Something Dr. Pym has had some issues with over the years, even when his creations aren't brainwashing him into forgetting that he ever created them, creating alternate personalities out of the cognitive dissonance. So back when Ant-Man's movie was supposed to come out in late 2014, Ultron's presence in Avengers 2 actually made some sense. But the usual creative differences conspired to keep Ant-Man out of theaters for another year. So at some point, someone within the Marvel-Disney machine decided that cinematic Ultron would no longer be the son of Ant-Man. He would instead be the son of Iron Man. Damn the consequences. And there are plenty of consequences. But first, Age of Ultron opens up pretty much exactly where the last one left off, as if the intervening 3 years and 4 films never happened. At the end of the last movie, the whole team got to show off with one grand, sweeping, CGI-assisted tracking shot across their climactic battlefield. Avengers 2 opens up with another such shot, and right away it filled me with a mixture of joy and dread that's familiar to anyone who's been following Joss Whedon's work since 1992. Watching this in the theater, I almost blurted out, "Ah, yes, It's the team's last successful ride together before everything goes to shit. Who are you going to kill this time, Joss?
You didn't see that coming.
Well, let's just say it didn't come as much of a surprise, Quicksilver. Once again, like with Agent Coulson, Whedon swears up and down it wasn't his call, that this was one of many, many, many elements in the film dictated to him from on high. For one thing, both Quicksilver and his sister, Scarlet Witch, are in kind of a legal gray area right now. They're Avengers, yes, but they're also the twin progeny of the X-Men's arch-nemesis Magneto. Fox owns the X-Men's movie rights, as well as the rights to all their villains and all their villains' children, and they'll be damned if they let their historical rival Disney play with their toys for too awful long. That's why they put Quicksilver into the last X-Men movie, for all of 10 minutes, and no good reason that I could really fathom. And that's why this movie only calls Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch by their true names in the credits. I'm not exactly sure what Wanda Maximoff's legal status is these days. She hasn't shown up in the X-Men yet. Or if she has, it's as a blink-and-you-miss-it background decoration with no lines. So maybe Fox and Disney have split the twins up, like some evil adoption bureaucracy. Assuming I just didn't say the same thing twice. All I know is, Age of Ultron already has 6 main characters, plus their supporting casts, all of whom are stars in their own right, and will, naturally, demand star wages. The title implies a 7th character will show up at some point to play the villain, and here are the Maximoff twins, the 8th and 9th guests to this overcrowded party. Do you see a problem developing? I sure do. 2.5 hours may seem like a long time for a movie, but it's not enough time for all of this. Especially not if a fight scene is going to break out every 15 minutes. Problem number 2, then. This movie's trying to serve 2 masters, and we all know what Jesus said about that. Yes, it is the 11th film in the ongoing series we call the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But some people, believe it or not, went straight into Avengers 1 without watching the 5 films that preceded it. About $1 billion worth of people by my count. Don't kid yourselves, true believers. There are way more of them than there are of us. Have you seen these comic book sales figures? Yeah, they're doing better than they were in 2012, but that's like saying, you know, the East Coast is really doing better now that Hurricane Sandy's not kicking their ass. So while these movies are meant to astonish some of us as they render our favorite popular literature into glorious 3-dimensional pseudo-life, they are also, inevitably, pitched at a worldwide audience that thinks of reading, even reading comic books, the same way it thinks of homework. They will always and inevitably consider these films cheap babysitting aids. In case of emergency, open DVD box. And no amount of our intellectualizing is going to change that. Ever. All that aside, I actually like the presentation of the Maximoffs. Their chemistry here as a brother and sister team proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that their lack of chemistry as a husband and wife team back in Gareth Edwards' Godzilla movie was not their fault. Kick-ass? It's nice to see all grown up and playing a real superhero. And Elizabeth Olsen here proves who got the entire Olsen family's supply of talent. I'm just glad they dialed your powers back to something closer to their default setting. When it comes to incipient power creep, Scarlet Witch is as bad as Superman in the 70s. Hell, Clark Kent's done lots of questionable things in his time, but he never altered the whole of reality with a casual utterance. These two could have used a bit more coaching to stop their accents from taking a wandering tour of the entire Adriatic Sea coast. But otherwise, nice job. And no, I didn't actually see that coming. I hoped these films would continue the Avengers' occasionally suicidal tradition of turning old enemies into new recruits. But these films have a bad habit of screwing over their villains, and I feared the same would happen to the Maximoffs. Especially now that the daddy issues that have defined these characters for 50 years were a legal no-go. Thankfully, this movie threaded that needle by making the twins now dead, and tactfully unnamed parents, their primary motivating force, as with all the best superheroes. And by making their origin story subtly parallel Iron Man's own.
And on the side of the shell, Just painted one word. Stark.
Hey, subtlety's pretty hard to come by in the Marvel Universe. I'll take whatever I can get. With no mutants around, these Maximovs get their powers through good old-fashioned mad science, courtesy of Baron Strucker. Because this film had to short shift at least one villain, so, hell, might as well be the neo-Nazi. At least we finally get to see what happened to all those Leviathans the Avengers left beached in Midtown Manhattan. And we finally get to see the inside of Tony Stark's head. Never the happiest place on Earth, and not a place that I would usually go willingly. Even though I sometimes stumble into it without even knowing.
Please be a secret door, please be a secret door, please be a secret door.
Yay. Because, well, really, what the fuck is the point of putting your evil lab in an old castle if you can't conceal it behind a secret door? That's the frustrating thing about Iron Man. When we're on the same page, we're really on the same page. But as a character, Tony's been bumping up against a wall for about, off and on, say, 15 years now. And every time he stands poised on the top, looking over into the land of actual character development, some damn thing always comes along to knock him back. He once again becomes the smug, narcissistic, technocratic bastard that is his factory default setting. And when his creators, or more often their bosses up the corporate food chain, can't think of a good reason for this to happen, they most often resort to contrivances. Like mind control. One of my friends, who doesn't know the Scarlet Witch from the Wicked Witch of the West, saw this scene and went, "Oh, okay, I get it. She's the bad trip fairy, right?" Named after the good trip fairy who roams the campuses of Reed College, making sure all the acid heads and mushroom eaters survive their evenings with sanity intact. And the bad trip Wanda sends Tony on here is pretty much a visual representation of the same bad trip that was haunting him all throughout Iron Man 3. Until, of course, a stirring speech from a curiously unaccented Tennessee kid convinced him to focus on practical, achievable goals. Like, say, being a bad enough dude to save the president. But now, with the president saved, and his army of drone suits already rebuilt, so much for Pepper's Christmas present, huh? Shit, dude. She may be off running the company in your absence, of that I have no doubt, but maybe she's not in this movie because she's pissed at you for taking back a present. Either way, the next thing on Tony's to-do list is create Skynet. He sells it well, but he's using the same damn sales pitch he used to sell missiles to the army back in Iron Man 1. Tony? Question. Wasn't your last movie all about how your armor was a cocoon that you'd finally emerged from? Completing your journey from Ironmonger to Iron Man. Because to those of us who watched that movie, and the 4 that preceded it, looks like you took the long way around the barn to wind up at the same damn place where you started from. Tony's already spent 3.5 movies learning the lesson Ultron is designed to teach, but god damn it! And this is what happens when you don't have Hank Pym around to bite the bullet and create the murder bot. Though what the fuck is your excuse, Banner? I mean, you're crazy, but you're usually not this fucking crazy. Not without the help of one of your villains. Whatever did happen to the leader, anyway? Oh, there he is in Josh Trank's Fantastic Four movie. Yes, Scarlet Witch's presence in this story does make Tony's regression make a little more sense than it would otherwise. But Wanda's been a walking narrative cop-out now for about 30 years, and I'm really sad to see that tradition continuing onto the silver screen.
What is this? What is this, please?
Despite all that, I like this Ultron more than any of his comic book counterparts.
This feels weird. This feels wrong.
For one thing, unlike all of them, this Ultron's completely batshit insane. He really is a son of Stark. Right down to the grandiosity, the occasional aphasia, and the hair-trigger narcissism. And James Spader does a great job with all of this. My favorite moment comes when Wanda's psychic powers finally clue her into Ultron's evil plan. She calls him on it.
You said we would destroy the Avengers. make a better world.
It will be better.
And he can't even get the denial out. The words get stuck in his throat? Vocal processor?
When everyone is dead.
That is not... The human race will have every opportunity to improve.
And the face these two make is perfect. That's the face you make when some motherfucker starts casually talking about genocide. Before that, though, our team has a party. The last party, it seems, which Ultron crashes with what I thought at the time would be the theme of this film.
How could you be worthy? You're all killers.
Holy shit, I almost said to the theater last year. That's what I said when everybody was bitching and moaning about Man of Steel's ending. All your heroes are killers. It's just that none of you noticed until a Superman film slapped you in the face with it. And make no mistake, its willingness to do just that is part of the reason why I love it. Ultron's villain motivation boils down to a half-second on the internet drove him hopelessly mad. Which, as a denizen of the internet myself, I can totally buy at 20% over the sticker price. In his virtual adolescence, he sounds very much like the stereotypical internet-based critic of superhero films. The fair-weather Frederick Worthams who emerge every summer like hibernating squirrels. Combined with the logical result of every Silicon Valley techno-fetishist's dream of rapture. Allied with the Maximoff twins, as he is for about half the movie, Ultron could have forced the Avengers to deal with some interesting questions. Questions about motive, means, methods, and the cumulative effect they've had on the world they've helped create. And he could have done all that while creating an army of killer robots for the team to climactically battle, and trying to cause his own little extinction-level event by crashing a minor European city into the Earth. If we look at the two AIs that Tony has developed as his...
Children. I lost the word there.
then obviously Jarvis is the overachieving firstborn, the one who gets all the responsibility. That makes Ultron the spoiled brat baby of the family, and looking at him that way makes everything about him much more explicable. At times, it really does seem like Tony's fighting an evil version of himself. Unfortunately, this marks the fourth Marvel movie with an evil version of Tony Stark as its main villain. I guess I should be grateful they didn't all come out in a row, but the time between each of them has given everyone else enough time to forget the last boring one-note villain they saw. So every time another one comes along, I feel like I'm the only one who notices Marvel returning to this same well over and over again, even as a vast ocean of villainy churns and swirls behind them, completely unutilized. Now yes, Fox does own most of your world-ending heavy hitters. But how in God's name is that stopping you from elevating someone from the C or D-list levels of villainy to A-list status via a good portrayal in a major motion picture? Eh? Certainly worked out for Iron Man. And Thor. I mean, hell, look at Hawkeye and Widow over there. Hawkeye honestly surprised me here by turning out to be Ultimate Hawkeye, a version of the character created in the early 2000s for one of Marvel's few true junk-everything-and-start-from-scratch reboots. In the Ultimates, as here, rather than being a circus acrobat turned criminal turned superhero, Hawkeye became an intelligence services lifer, complete with nuclear family and sweet house in the country. Yes, this may be yet another bit of heteronormative propaganda delivered straight from the culture industry into the heads of your precious children. But goddamn, Hawkeye got no character development in the last movie. And I was afraid the same thing would happen here again. Besides, these two are incredibly cute together, and I totally buy that they'd be married long enough to have the kids they have. I'll gladly take this Hawkeye over any of the alternatives, because all of those Hawkeyes are giant children. And this team already has one of those. Well, okay, 2. 3, really. Thor still needs some time to cook. In fact, if there is an adult on this team, it's Widow. And she's as riven with paradox, contradictions, self-hatred, and angst as any of the rest of Earth's mightiest heroes. Most everyone else's character development in this film flows from Scarlet Witch's brain blasts. And as with Tony, most of it isn't development so much as regression. so we may not get to see the team do anything more interesting than fight killer robots, but we do get nice little peeks into their interior hellscapes. Tony sees that damn wormhole again. Captain America sees a world emptied of everything he fought so long and hard for, leaving him all alone, a man at a time. Thor sees Ragnarok, of course. Then there's Widow. And here, at long last, glory be, we get the Black Widow movie some of us have been clamoring for since 2010, when we found out we weren't going to be getting it until after Avengers 1. If at all. So here it is, finally, in Avengers 2, and it's about a minute and a half long. And nothing but flashback. Great. 5 years of waiting, and that's all we get. We got a live-action Rocket Raccoon before we got a Black Widow movie. And I love Rocket as much as the next fan of snarky talking animals with oversized guns. But I like Widow a lot more. And at this point, her continued status as a glorified supporting cast member just sucks. But let's turn and face a fact that everyone else seems too scared to vocalize. If we ever did get a Black Widow movie, anyone who does not already know and love Natasha would probably hate it. In your heart, you know I'm right. Then again, I'm a pessimist. And in my pessimism, I'm starting to believe that America is too dumb for a female-led superhero movie. Hell, at this point, we can barely handle the ones we have that center around straight, cishet white dudes. For one thing, a prospective Black Widow movie at this point would be seen as yet another goddamn prequel, with all the baggage that entails. On top of all the baggage, Nat's already lugging around her damn self. There's way too much physical and psychological torture in her origin for it to qualify as a PG-13 summer blockbuster. In the minds of those who currently run modern Hollywood, that would make it unable to earn the $1 billion it would need to earn in order to justify its existence to them. Oh sure, they could take all of that out of her origin story and anger most, if not all, of her fans. Though I suppose they could always just preemptively dismiss all of our griping by calling us monsters who get off on torture porn. But rather than shaming us into silence like it's supposed to, I'm pretty sure all that would do would be to provide more cover for the real monsters who really do get off on torture porn to climb out of their forts of Saw merchandise and send even more death threats than they were already gonna send. Like all those racist bastards in the lead-up to Josh Trank's Fantastic Four movie. I'm starting to think that no one actually wants superheroes or their movies. What you all seem to want are empty vessels that you can pour yourselves into. Because every time one of these characters pauses between action scenes to gasp, shock, reveal something about their character, all of their so-called fans split into predetermined demographic lines and start talking past each other. There's no discussion or debate anymore, as if there ever was. Everyone just blurts out the first absurd post hoc rationalization they can think of to justify their usually even more absurd initial gut reactions. For example, you want proof that the casual misogyny that's haunted superhero comics since their inception is still alive and well? Well, look no further than the fact that 4 out of the 5 boys on this team have had their own solo films and their own fucking sequels. Widow's been in 4 of those movies, and what does she have to show for it? A couple of good lines and a few flashbacks. Every single female-led superhero film, every one of them, has been a miserable failure. Even by your own asinine fanboy standards. That's a bullshit, lame-ass excuse for not even trying in the first fucking place, and you know it. In fact, that's the same bullshit, lame-ass excuse some Sony executive gave for why they're not making a Black Cat movie. Even as they ramped up plans to milk the Spider franchise for every fucking thing it was worth in an endless series of spin-offs. Hell, they even snuck Black Cat into Amazing Spider-Man 2 for no good reason other than ass covering. And did you not just say that your fellow Americans were, and I quote, too dumb to handle such things? Yes, I did. But that was more of a dare than anything else. I mean, prove me wrong, people. Christ, you think I want to be right all the time? It fucking sucks. Not to toot my own horn or anything, except I'm totally doing that, because I correctly guessed that this movie would completely fall apart in the third act. And I even correctly guessed how a combination of franchise mentality and good old-fashioned studio groupthink would bring it low. After all, what movie in its right mind introduces a whole new pivotal character right before the climactic action scene? A character most people haven't even fucking heard of, and probably hadn't seen at all before Tony, Bruce, and Thor bring him to life. Odds are this is the first they've heard of Ultron, to say nothing of his habit for building new bodies for himself. So when the team steals one of those, and downloads, or uploads, or ports Jarvis into it, we're all supposed to trust this guy because he has the voice of Paul Bettany. And there's this scene with the hammer. Of course, he said snobbishly, I trust this character because I already know who Vision is. Comic book Ultron enjoyed a major increase to his threat potential once Al Gore invented the internet, and an evil computer program that likes to build new copies of himself could instantly download into a new body anywhere on Earth. And at this point, it takes the entire active rosters of both the Avengers and the X-Men combined to take comic book Ultron down. Movie Ultron's a bit younger, so our team gets by with a little help from Android Superman. But it takes 20 minutes to get there. And if the rest of this finale feels like a forced rote exercise in box ticking, well, that's because it is. Honestly, they wasted the whole Avengers fight an army of identical bad guys thing in the last movie. At the time, I just threw it on the increasingly large pile of bad plans that Loki's come up with over the years, even though a part of me knew that it was really a piece of obligatory summer blockbuster movie plotting. And this is Age of Ultron's final, fatal flaw. It's much less of a sequel, and much more of a placeholder designed to set up Captain America 3, Thor 3, and the eventual Avengers 3. Which will, of course, be split into 2 movies, Harry Potter style. That way, filmmakers can finally get all the time and space they need to really flesh out all of these characters and give each of them in-depth, finely crafted exploratory arcs. Just kidding. It's so Marvel could make twice as much money in half the time. Do you know the thing that really sucks? This movie started out okay. In fact, started out pretty damn strong. But after Wanda's brain blasts and a completely pointless Hulk and Iron Man fight, it fast becomes an excuse to sell toys and drive once promising filmmakers off of social media. And more power to you, Joss. Hopefully, he's off making another black and white Shakespeare movie with his friends. Meanwhile, I'm stuck explaining to all of my friends that no, I didn't hate this damn thing. It's just incredibly disappointing. There's just not much to like about it. And few, if any, of the things I like fit together into a cohesive flick. But believe me, it is far, far, far from the worst superhero movie of 2015. It may, in fact, be one of the best. And that's the most disappointing thing of all. Ah, yes. That reminds me. No, man. Not 2 in a row. Come on. I was not the one who promised it to my audience. So pucker up, Buttercup, and review Josh Trank's Fantastic Four.
I want the big one.